Assassin's Creed Odyssey is a game I've played for 75 plus hours. To be able to finish the story and every side mission that I could find, and all the additional content I could be bothered to do as well. And through it all, I was tempered by the fact that this is just a good game, when it could have probably been one of the best games of this generation if I'd given it a bit more time. It's very similar to Assassin's Creed Origins. The combat system, exploration system are all pretty much identical. There's a leveling system in play, which is pretty much the same as Origins as well. The open world and map is significantly larger with a lot more geographical variety than some deserts. Naval combat has a much bigger focus as you're getting around from island to island, though once you actually unlock the fast travel points you'll generally not really use the boat afterwards because it takes so long to get anywhere, because the map is actually just a little bit too big to happily explore on a boat. And it just feels like there's just not quite enough polish on what's there, because the majority of what's there is perfectly fine, but just so close to being good. My main gripes involve the combat system and the level system. As you level up, you gain access to new areas of the world, which you couldn't get to before, because anything that's as little as 2 levels higher than you will kill you in about 1 or 2 hits, and you'll do scratch damage to them, regardless of what your equipment setup or character build is. Even assassinating people just straight up doesn't work sometimes if you're the same level as them, because you have to have special abilities and limited resources to be able to assassinate people reliably. But as you level up, previous areas you've been to also level up with you. Like the starting island of Kefalonia is currently level 48, when I'm level 50 at the cap. And because of that, you never really feel like you get any stronger over the course of the entire game. You get a couple of new abilities, like I have a nifty shield break or the ability to poison my weapons, but none of them feel like they make much of a difference. Like the status effects like poison and fire, when they're applied to you, take away maybe a third of your health bar as they tick down. When applied to an enemy, you see some numbers pop up that mean nothing. Like, I can hit someone for 25,000 damage in a single hit. Poison will hit them for about 1,000 a tick over the course of 10 seconds. It's meaningless amounts of damage. So because of that, you never really get to feel like you've actually progressed or gotten stronger, just that you're allowed to actually visit the rest of the world. Like, there's never the satisfaction of going back to a lower level area and actually being able to explore without having to worry about getting into combat, where you can be killed quickly and you have to pay attention to it. And I can understand why they do that, but it's the same thing with the Fallout games and the Elder Scrolls games. It's to make sure you're always challenged and it's balanced, but sometimes it's nice just to have it be a little bit in your favour. Like, the main antagonist of the game, like the primary mirror to your character essentially, is someone who's portrayed in cutscenes as effortlessly cutting down foes on the battlefield with a single strike. And it would have been nice even if at the end of the game I'd got to do that just once. Like, give me a single large conquest battle of 100 people at level 1 or 2 that I could actually stride through and feel like the badass everyone portrays this character out to be as you go through the game, where people talk about you as the eagle bearer of legend, and you barely feel powerful enough to take on peasants with pitchforks. So the combat system's not great. It works, but it just needs a balance pass or something to make your actual abilities feel effective. Like some of the more fun abilities that you get in the tree, like the Spartan kick, which they put in all the promotional stuff, lets you kick people off of cliffs. Unless they're a special character like an elite or a mercenary, in which case they're just invincible to it and they just fall straight down in the floor. Oh, and of course, when you're playing the majority of the game below level 50, if they're higher level than you, then they're not affected by it either, which is also fun. Speaking of mercenaries, there's areas in the game where you can explore and they're hostile to you. Like, like military camps, treasuries, stuff like that. If the guards see you, they'll attack you because you're not one of them. If you're being hunted by the mercenaries, which is essentially this game's wanted level from GTA, those mercenaries can explore handily through there to look for you and engage you in open combat, but they're not attacked by anyone because they're mercenaries when you're a mercenary and get attacked on sight by guards. So that's also an annoyance and frustration. Mercenaries will just teleport to the island you're on and kill you. Like, there's a whole tree dedicated to the mercenaries tab where you can work your way up through the ranks by like tracking down and murdering people that are higher level than you. But despite the fact that they pop up on the map as being on entirely different islands and landmasses, they'll just teleport to you when you get a wanted level. Like Tazula the Poet is over in Arcadia just now. I'm over here, and if I got a wanted level, they just pop up over here. I mean, for me having fast travel, I suppose it makes sense that the game's mercenaries have fast travel as well, but it's still a nuisance. This game has choices in the dialogue, which is a first for Assassin's Creed, because normally it's just pre-scripted dialogues. Some of those choices are pretty effective and work well. Some of them don't. Like, one of the more annoying and egregious examples was one where something that I did within the first 20 hours of the game affected stuff that happened at the end of the entire campaign, with absolutely no indication that any of that stuff would matter. I mean, normally in games like The Witcher, you know, they tend to give you some sort of reasoning behind it, as opposed to just, yeah, sorry, well, guess you should replay the whole game again. And then there's quests that have problems with reactivity. For instance, I did a side quest to become the leader of a faction called the Daughters of Artemis, which took the majority of the game to complete because some of the quests were level 40 odd. And now I'm the leader. I found a side quest that had involved someone who wanted to join. And at no point could I say anything along the lines of, hey, I'm the leader, why don't I just let you in? I had to go and steal clothes from my own followers so that the person could disguise themselves as one, and then hope that they didn't get caught. Or there was things where like people would talk to me like, hey, you didn't hurt any of the Daughters of Artemis getting this doohickey, did you? My options to say are, I didn't kill anyone, or they died silently. Not, I walked through because I own the place. Like, simple bits of reactivity like that just feel like they just didn't have the time to flesh everything out as much as they wanted to. Speaking of time, a lot of the side quests in this game are just terrible. The vast majority of them are simple fetch quests. You go somewhere, you pick up a thing, you bring it back. Or you go out and you kill some bears to get some pelts. You know, that sort of thing. And it's a shame because some of the side quests are actually really good. Like, there's one in particular I remember from down in Masara, where you get given a tour by a kid of the island of Minotaurs. And he gives you a whole series of speeches about how to invest in his currency and get like Minotaur potions and stuff like that. And he's got real good writing. And there's some good dialogue in the game. And there's some good characterization. And then there's just so many characters where they don't even have names and are giving you quests. Slave or slave master ask you questions and ask you to go and retrieve a priceless heirloom, and then you get a pittance of currency. Yeah, it feels like a fine Assassin's Creed. Like it's like Origins from last year. And if you haven't played Origins, I would honestly recommend playing that one first, just because of the fact it'll be significantly cheaper than Odyssey would be at this point, and then pick up Odyssey down the line. Like, it is still a game that is worth buying when it goes on sale. It's just not worth full price, not for the repetitive content, the frustrations and bugs. I mean, I've even had problems with stuff like climbing up things and free running, where my character would just not respond or climb. And there's been a variety of fun visual glitches, which I've chronicled on my Facebook page. But it's still a good game. There's still an interesting story. It's still satisfying to get to the end of it and the resolution. It just feels like it needed another year. Maybe even just another 6 months. Had it come out in like March or April or so, just to give it that little bit more polish, just to tune up stuff like the combat system, enemy scaling, the reward system for when you actually do long quests, and get rid of the repeating and daily quests and stuff like that. Tighten up the side quests just by getting rid of some of the extraneous ones that just didn't have anything to say. Like, every side quest in The Witcher 3 has twists to it, things you don't expect, complications. In this one, everything just feels copied and paste. So yeah, it's like a 7 out of 10 kind of game. It's still a good game. It's just not the game it could have been. It could have been the best game in the series. But that's still 2.